The reason I thought it was important to put this on the agenda was simply because there's so much misinformation. And it's not about maybe we'll listen to this and we'll listen to that, we'll make our decision. If you're making your decision based on completely false information, you don't have a fighting chance. And there's a lot of false information out there. So I think in a leadership role, our city council has a responsibility to help guide the people and at least give the people the truth so they can make an informed decision. Because right now, if your source is Facebook or social media or all these different things, there's just an incredible amount of misinformation. So what is the truth? If we as a city council cannot have a discussion based on actual facts, then we are guaranteed to make a bad decision. And this is the most important decision that Orem has made in a long time. Now, this is not complicated. It's incredible how complicated it's become. Alpine School District is trying to get us to sign up for a $595 million bond because we represent you, the citizens of Orem, and not Alpine School District. We wanted some simple questions answered. How much do our citizens have to pay? How much will they get back for their children in their schools? These are simple questions, right? Now we have the answers. It turns out that over the past 20 years, $174 million have been taken from Orem taxpayers and used outside of our city. Prior to these meetings and prior to this study and prior to these conversations, nobody knew that. Now we know that $174 million left Orem in the last 20 years. Now I was shocked to learn that. I think I'm pretty informed, but I don't think most informed people had any idea that was going on. Why would we pay $174 million and get nothing in return? It's a simple question. The next part of the question that we wanted the answer to was, if we're going to sign up for this $595 million bond, the largest school bond in Utah history, what does our community get that we can use? The answer to this question is worse. Orem residents are expected to pay $116 million for new taxes and get $20 million for 2 gyms that we don't necessarily need. So in simple terms, to break that down into black and white, we are being asked to take on just under $100 million in new debt and get nothing for our students in return. Nothing. Back in the old days, you used to have conversations about this bond and that bond, and was it a good idea or was it a bad idea? But you compared it to what you're getting. So at least you're getting something and then you're deciding if you want to spend the money for it. This is pretty straightforward. We spend $100 million and we get nothing. So now that's shocking to anyone who's paying attention. Has this even been a conversation? I haven't seen this conversation on social media. I don't do social media, never have. This simple question has been turned into a circus by those who seem to do or say whatever is necessary to keep us locked in Alpine School District. Now I'm going to go sideways here for a second, and then I'll come back. But I must congratulate the Alpine School District public relations employee who worked on this project. At $240,000 a year, their salary, it appears ASD is getting their money's worth. ASD loyalists put out a hit piece on my dad that was designed to change this conversation from what we should be talking about, $100 million for nothing, into an effort to demonize my dad. And because I don't know how long he'll be around, I want to bring this up. Let's demonize my 93-year-old father who just lost my mom. Let's demonize a man who's an Air Force veteran who spent 20 years of his life defending our country and your First Amendment right to free speech. Let's demonize a man who's always defended his faith and served in significant church leadership callings for the last 30 years. Let's demonize a man who was a highly respected psychologist in the state of New Mexico and taught at Eastern New Mexico University for years. Now, after seeing some people twist his prayer into something negative about teachers, since he used to be a teacher I asked him last Sunday when I went to see him what he meant when he said there was evil in the schools, because I didn't know what he meant. I can't read his mind, contrary to, what's said. He said that he was shocked when he saw a recent report showing over 40 books containing pornography in Alpine School District libraries. Since no one has bothered to ask him why he said what he said, I did. The porn in the schools was the evil he spoke about. He was not going after the teachers. That was a complete made up construction by the other side, and I resent that. This was just another attempt by ASD loyalists to try and change the subject from what should be being talked about. Now, this is not a political game, but seems like some are intent on making it one. Most of the outspoken leaders on the ASD side of this conversation have fought against our city council ever since we were elected. They fought against this when we put policy in place to protect family neighborhoods. They fought against this when we changed zoning and stopped 10,000 apartments from being built on State Street the first month we were put in office. They fought against this when we pushed back on putting the BRT bus down State Street. They fought against this when we established a transparency website. I don't know how you twist that, but they fought against it. They fought against it when we restructured the planning commission and how the city commissions were elected or selected. They fought against this even when we decided to move forward with a new city building without any additional taxes. Amazingly, they even fought against us when we rebranded Orem as Family City USA and made that slogan a priority in all our decisions. Now, there are three groups, in my mind, there are three groups that oppose the split. The first group just doesn't like the idea. They don't want change. And I completely respect that. At least they're honest in what they're doing. That's how they feel, and I completely respect those feelings. The second group, which are the voices from the past who are ASD loyalists, seem willing to do or say anything, regardless of whether or not it's true, in order to keep Orem from splitting. That's the group I have a problem with. The third group are people with good intentions who simply don't want to see their taxes raised. I mean, do you want to have your taxes raised? Obviously not. Many of this group have a sign in their front yard that says no tax increases. So they really believe that if they vote against this school district, they're not going to have tax increases. They've been told that. They've been told that over and over, and they believe it. And that's a problem. My message is to the third group. They're being severely misled. And I believe if they knew the truth, they would be in favor of a new Orem school district. One side is running a campaign based on fear, and the other side is running a campaign based on facts. ASD loyalists refuse to accept the results. I mean, we just started all these things we don't believe in. And now in the last few months, we don't believe in the deck feasibility study. We don't believe in the 2022 FEMA earthquake study. We don't believe in FEMA. We don't believe in the 2022 Utah Taxpayers Association analysis. You know, that they were credible up until this. I mean, actually just a few weeks before. They don't believe in the input from the Utah County Assessor, the Utah State Tax Commission, the Utah State Board of Education, the Office of Legislative Fiscal Analyst, and they don't believe the 2017 Alpine School District study or the 2006 study. And I could go on, but I'm not. So a simple question. This is back to simple because this has gotten very complicated. A simple question: if we double Orem's debt and get virtually nothing in return, do you think taxes will go up or go down? Obviously, taxes will go up significantly if we double our debt. If Orem had been allowed to split from ASD 20 years ago, what would the results have been? Because they had this conversation just under 20 years ago. The results would have been 174 million of Orem taxpayer payments would not have left Orem to other cities. That's the last 20 years. Going forward, based on this new bond, 96 million of upcoming taxpayer payments would not be scheduled to leave our city if this bond passes. In total, 270 million would have stayed or be staying in Orem to create an amazing school district without all the problems we have now. I mean, with $270 million, you can do a lot. How can any rational person believe that taxes would be higher if we still had control of $270 million of our tax dollars that leave our city? So then we're down to the people that say, well, this is kind of a good idea. I think we should do a split and a vineyard, whatever. But why right now? I just want to do this later. Well, to the Vineyard Linden question, as has been mentioned, legislation is being worked on. I mean, they can be part of our district right now because of open enrollment, but there's also legislation going on that would make it simple for those kids to come to our schools. The problem is, it's not about Vineyard Linden and having a consortium and doing this all at once. That's not what the issue is. The issue is we're at a tipping point. Alpine School District, in my belief, is walking us into a debt trap that I don't think we understand. I don't see this talked about anywhere in all the concerns and the conversations. So what is the ASD debt trap? Alpine School District tells Orem there's no reason to leave now. What's your hurry? Why don't you do it later? Our current share of the ASD debt is $83 million. That's manageable. Right now, with that $83 million that we're carrying in debt, it's more than feasible for us to create a new school district with this current debt load. In November, this November, with their gigantic new bond, ASD is trying to settle this with an additional $116 million in additional debt in exchange for these two gyms. This new debt would more than double Orem's current school debt to $200 million, but we would get nothing meaningful to show for it. So we go from 83 million, and now we can do it, to magically wave a magic wand. Now we owe 200 million, and nothing really changed in our schools. If we don't leave Alpine District now, before the new $595 million bond is passed, we sink into the ASD debt trap and no longer have a choice whether or not we can leave. As long as Orem citizens believe that doubling their debt without getting anything for our students and families is a good idea, ASD will continue to layer taxes on us while they laugh at the Stronger Together signs claiming no new taxes in our front yards. Why would ASD loyalists want to keep us stuck in this self-imposed status quo? The feasibility shows that our children's test scores are bad and continue to decline. Why aren't there any conversations about that? I haven't seen any conversations about, I mean, it's a serious problem when your test scores are declining at the rate they are. We're not talking about that, but this is a major issue for our children's future. Are we just going to ignore it and hope it goes away? Why don't we care if class sizes are too high? And not only too high, but they're projected to increase. How is there nothing in place? There's no conversations about that. How come in Orem we've got 42% less specialty classes than the rest of the district? I mean, was there a reason that that just happened to Orem, even though we paid the bulk of the taxes? How long are we willing to wait, has it been mentioned lots, to fully repair our unsafe seismic schools? It's been 16 years since the first report came out. How long do we have to wait? What are we waiting for? Lastly, our minority and low-income students are being left behind, as shown by their test scores. If you want to see what's going on, dive into the test scores. The current $595 million bond gives lower-income students in Orem nothing, not 1 cent. Please explain to me how that's compassionate. It's a problem. So why don't we want to fix any of these serious problems? Going one step further, we don't want to fix any of these problems, but we're willing to embrace $100 million in new debt while getting nothing for our kids. To be clear, I'm fighting for you, the citizens of Orem, whether you appreciate it or not. I'm fighting to keep you out of this debt trap. The last debt trap you walked into was Utopia in 2004. That was an $85 million debt. we had a major conversation about that. Now we're talking about $100 million debt and it doesn't matter. Well, where are we at on the Utopia debt? We're still paying for it and will be for years. Financially, that was a disaster at that time, but at least we got something. We got fiber in the ground. This time we're doing a bigger debt than Utopia and we get nothing. And at the time, Utopia set the record for bad financial decisions. So going forward now, are we really willing to support Alpine School District at the expense of Orem? Because that's what it comes down to. At the expense of our children's future, this is the $270 million question.